presentation by Ms. Griffin, which will follow with the pledge. Please stand.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we are so thankful that you have allowed us to meet here today to take care of business for these, your people. And we ask you at this time that you would grant unto us a special blessing and that you would heal our land. We are so aware of the conditions that we must meet, and your word said that if we would seek your face and humble ourselves and turn from our ways not pleasing in your sight, that you would heal our land. And we ask for healing tonight for the United States of America. We thank you for these members of the jury and for their family and for all of those individuals responsible for taking care of this parish. And so as we take care of business, we pray that the things we say and do will be pleasing in your sight. We ask these things because your Son, Jesus the Christ, gave us permission. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be found acceptable in thy sight. In the name of Jesus the Christ, amen.
Amen. Please face the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Mr. Enterprise?
Here.
Mr. Brain?
Here.
Mr. Collins?
Here.
Mr. Farnham?
Here.
Mrs. Griffin?
Present.
Mr. Hassan?
Here.
Mr. Landry?
Mr. Landry's walking in the door.
Is he? Aye. Okay. Dr. Mackey?
Present.
Mr. McMillan?
Here.
Mr. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Spell?
Here.
Mr. Stelly?
Here.
Mr. Sias?
Present.
Mrs. Trimmy? Here. And President Gidger.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. At this time, if there's anyone in the audience that has a cell phone, we would ask that you would please place that device to silence. If there's anybody that has any type of beeper or pager, we ask that you would also place that device to silence. And with that being said, everybody here, we'll begin. Item number 5, take appropriate actions on applications for liquor and beer permits. Mr. Vickers.
Mr. President, we have 2 applications tonight. We recommend they both be approved.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Griffin and a second by Mr. McMillan. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 5 passes. Item number 6, consideration approval of all payments on all current invoices.
Move on 6. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Stelly and a second by Mr. Size. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 6 passes. Item number 7, consideration approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of police jury dated
Move on,
April
7.
8th, 2010. I have a motion by Dr. Mackey and a second by Mr. Fordham. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. Also, number 8, consideration approval of the Public Works Committee report dated April 29th, 2010. Said committee. Thank you, Mr. Calvin. Mr. Calvin made the motion on item number 8. I need a second.
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Size on all bullets. Let me just read those bullets, which is 4 items, into the record, please. Receive report from staff on reference to Drainage Master Plan Project, East McNeese Street Sub-Basin, C.H. Fenstermaker and Associates, and English Bayou Sub-Basin, URS Corporation. 8.2, receive report from legal counsel with reference to parish occupational licensing under the category of door-to-door peddling, and the committee discuss various options presented. 8.3, receive report from staff with reference to proposal changes related to the annual rabies clinic, and further recommend adopting a resolution approving said change. 8.4, recommended that an ordinance be adopted amending applicable sections of the Code of Ordinance of Calcasieu Parish, Louisiana, with reference to animal and fowls. I do have a speaker on 8.4. Is there Miss Sally Shepard? She wanted to speak on 8.4. Is there Miss Sally Shepard that's present?
It's dated 4/29, sir.
That's from last week.
Last week.
That's from
That's the last.
Yeah, Mr. Gidger, we weren't expecting her.
Y'all can throw that.
Mr.
My
President.
Vice President.
Yeah.
Legal counsel.
8.4 was approved already, but 8.2 has not been because I did an amendment after your discussions.
Yes, sir.
And it is present here, and you need to have a separate motion to adopt.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion by Dr. Mackey and a second by Mr. Landry. Is there any discussion? Any objection on that addition by legal counsel? Hearing none. Item number 8 passes. Is there anything else, Mr. Smith, on that? Is
No,
that
thank you.
okay? Item number 9.
When do we do 8.2? We need to do it now.
Did we do 8.2?
We got to do it now.
Okay,
Extract 8.2 from the motion and vote on it.
go ahead, legal counsel.
The explanation is this. 8.4 was approved by the committee, and the recommendation was made to the entire police jury
Right.
to accept 8.4 as approved last week.
Okay.
However, 8.2, you all had a separate vote, and you asked me to go back to
Right.
present the final to you as you all had asked me to amend it, and so that's what you just approved by separate vote.
Let's take them one at a time.
Okay. Okay. If we would remove those motions and we would just take each one of those separately, if that would be okay with the jury. Is that okay? We would just take each one of those separately, okay? I'm going to go back to,
Mr. President,
You don't,
you're actually, you're fine already with what you've done, if y'all, since y'all took
Okay.
8.2 separately and done the others.
okay then.
ready to roll.
Thank you, Mr. Bean.
Good?
Good enough. Mr. Landry.
Thank you. That was the only error you made, was not allowing me to speak.
I'm sorry about that, Mr.
After
Landry. I won't make that
after
mistake
I had
again.
asked, but you did not know because I didn't ask you. I asked the vice
I
president.
appreciate that, Mr. Landry.
That's okay. I will point it out if it happens.
No, you will.
Let's see. Now you've got me confused.
You wanted to speak on 8.4, was it?
No, it was 8.3.
8.3, okay.
8.3, I will just say for the record that I had one phone call. Actually, I had no phone calls. Mr. McMillan did, but he was happy to give them my phone number and have them call me since he claimed he had not had a chance to read his material that was handed to him last Thursday night. That was convenient. But no problem. I didn't mind at all, Mr. McMillan. I talked to the lady. She was kind of misinformed. End of the conversation, she actually put her name on the list to volunteer. So she's happy. The only suggestion she had is that she felt like her animals are not fixed. And she felt like she is being penalized by paying the $10 instead of the $8, which I explained to her that's not the intent. It's only to reward people that have had that done. It's not meant as a punishment to anyone else. So if y'all choose to make it all the same price, that's up to y'all. But that was the only call I had.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. Mr. McMillan.
Thank you, Mr. President. And probably not knowing as much as Mr. Landry knew about this issue due to he was the liaison to the Animal Services, was why I referred that call to you, Mr. Landry. It wasn't on behalf of not only having the experience and knowledge of being there at those meetings that you've been on, but I appreciate you taking care of that. Thank you so much.
I was glad to fill in for you. It was an honor.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Ms. Trimmy.
Well, since for certain reasons, I couldn't be here last Thursday, I did read what they did fax me on the upcoming possible changes to the animal control. We haven't actually voted on that yet, have we? On the changes, like if one of your dogs gets out and it's not neutered or spayed, you have a chance to put up electric fence, or you can pay $300. I'm really sort of confused. I read it. I actually read it today. But,
Yes, ma'am.
But I really lost my focus because it was a little bit obscured from my poor mentality.
Yes, ma'am.
I couldn't grasp it all. So maybe if Mr. Allen can
Yes,
go
ma'am, Ms.
over it
Trimmy.
with me.
Yes, Mr. Allen has some comments. Mr. Allen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Guidry. Mr. Trimmy, 8.3 was referring to the rabies clinic, which, if I understood your comments correctly, you're more concerned with what would be 8.4, which were the
Right.
ordinance changes.
Well, and I was concerned about 8.22 because, it 8.3 also because it'll be at only 2 sites,
Yes, ma'am.
at Burton Coliseum and at the Cal-Cam Fairgrounds on the west side, and Burton Coliseum. And everything is volunteered. I mean, most of the vets that do that, do they volunteer or do we pay them?
They end up being compensated through the Vet Association, is our understanding, Ms. Trimmy, that at past events. In this case, we will be paying them directly.
So the parish did not pay them? The Vet
Yes, ma'am.
Association did?
No, in the past, we would provide, of the $10 fee that Mr. Landry was talking about, $4 went to the Vet Association in the past, which ultimately made it to the vets who participated at the clinics.
I mean, y'all all know and realize that just having 2 places in the parish is going to make it very difficult for many, many people to be able to have their animals vaccinated. And it's all about money?
No, ma'am. There was a number of things that played into it. I can surely go over them right now. I can discuss it with you on after the meeting, but there were changes that we needed. We, over the years, decided we needed to make at the clinics due to unorganization, lack of staff. Let me get my notes out right quick, but
Okay. I don't mean to hold anybody up.
That's fine, Ms. Trim.
Okay.
This is something that's important.
in reviewing all that, and we did in fact have a shortage of vets this time wanting to participate. So in reviewing all of our options and looking for solutions, we've decided to go to 2 larger events on opposite days where we can have at least 2 opportunities. We've expanded the timelines on those events. They usually lasted from around 9 to 1. Now we will go from 8 to 5, so it'll be a larger time slot. 2 locations, and we have a number of things in the information that we've faxed out to you that were supporting items, but we just had to weigh out the pros and cons, Ms. Trimmy, and with that we made the recommendation to go down to 2. There were some discussion on 4, 5, or 6. We just can't quite put enough resources together to do that.
I'd like to ask him one more question.
Go ahead, Ms. Trim.
Do you know, you have a number of how many in all the, I mean, let's just say for last year, how many animals were vaccinated at all of the area clinics around the parish?
Yes,
Alan,
ma'am.
Alan, if I would,
Yes, sir.
we have Ms. Rita Kavanaugh, who's the Director of Animal Control here with the parish. If you would like, Ms. Trimmy, we could have her come up and maybe.
Well, it's not that I don't want Ms. Kavanaugh, but I think Alan can answer all these questions.
We had 3,500 approximately at the total of 17 events last year, and we are trying to set up for that same number, even larger. In fact, we're trying to create an event at the 2 that we're going to have. We're trying to add things like microchipping, educational aspects to it. So we really want to create more of an event than a clinic. That's going to take some doing, probably a couple years to get it really refined, but if we can add more things, have some vendors that will be out there to show their products, things like that, that will not only be able to provide the citizens what we believe is the opportunity to save money on the rabies clinics, which we feel is one of our obligations, but also provide them with a little better event. We've been able to secure the Burton Coliseum arena area for this year. We would surely like to be able to get the West Cal Arena next year. We couldn't get it this year. We just believe that we're going to be able to create a much better atmosphere and provide a better service and that opportunity to save money with only 2 events. And we realize there's going to be some hardship and that some people are not going to want to travel that distance.
And all I'd like to ask is, okay, like 3,500 last year, if we find that the numbers drop significantly, then can we come back and review this?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
That's what I need to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trimmy. Is there any other comments by the jury on this item? Any other comments? Hearing none, item number 8 passes. Item number 9, consideration to approval of the Agenda Committee report dated April 29, 2010.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Brain.
Second.
And a second by Ms. Griffin. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 9 passes. Item number 10, presentation of certificates to Mr. David Manuel, former Chief of the Lake Charles Fire Department, on his retirement for 37 years. Mr. Brain.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jury, it's my honor tonight to present this award to Mr. David Manuel, which I call my friend and was a great fire chief for the city of Lake Charles for 37 years. Tonight we want to just honor you in your retirement. And I just want to say a few words about you, David. We know that you helped us, the fire rating, go down with Cajun Country. You want to kind of elaborate on how some of that went into place and some of the memorable things that you taught me since I've been on the jury was some of the times that we went on the water shuttles and so forth and how important, and Dennis was there and I remember that, but how important that was to you. So you took all those things into consideration and you just did an outstanding job. You've been with the fire department for 37 years. You were hired in 1973. You were appointed fire chief in 2003, and you retired this year on April 15, 2010. You've been a member of the Louisiana Emergency Preparedness Association, the Emergency Management Institute, certified aircraft rescue firefighter. You've been responsible for many comprehensive policies and procedure manuals, a National Incident Management System, and the HAZMAT Tech Certified. So that's just a lot of accomplishments over 37 years, and we really appreciate it for everything that you've done. And I'm going to present this award to you tonight. It's a certificate of appreciation from presented to you by the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury on this day, the 6th day of May 2010, to David Manuel, former fire chief of Lake Charles City Fire Department, in recognition and appreciation of 37 years of service to citizens of Calcasieu Parish. Congratulations and best wishes on your retirement. Thank you, David.
Thank you very much. I am retiring, but I'm not retreating from public service. I'm always looking for new avenues that God might use me to continue serving the public. 37 years is a long time, but God has blessed me so much and honored me by allowing me to become the fire chief in Lake Charles and also in Cajun Country in the district. For the last 6.5 years, most people don't know it, but I was the fire chief for all Ward 3. That's over 140 square miles of territory that we protected. I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud that we had to go through some changes in the district in order to bring the upgrade, because this is in a time of economic crisis now. Every penny counts to the public. I live in the district, so I knew it was very vital not only to provide the best fire protection, but also work on this grade, the Class 4 grade. We were at Class 5, and we were just notified about 2 months ago that we did better our grade to a Class 4, so that helps put the money back in the public's pocket where it needs to be. I just ask you, and I know this has been presented before, to continue working on a water district out in the district. This is the best we can do as a Class 4 right now without additional manpower and that water out there. Lake Charles provides the best professional service and response time that's possible out in that area. The only thing missing now is water. I know this has been on your heart. Y'all have talked about it for you before, and I just ask you to continue. I know we have to set our priorities, but I know this is has to do with taxes and renewals, and the public at one time will see the need for it. And I just thank you once again for God allowing me to serve you, the public, for 37 years. And I'm very proud to be honored, and I thank you very much.
We thank you, Mr. Manuel. Item number 11, presentation of trophy and certificates to the Alfred M. Barb High School bowling team and coaches in recognition of a successful season and winning the title of 2010 LHSAA Boys Bowling State Championship. Mr. Brain.
Thank you, President Guidry and jury. Tonight we have with us Barb High School bowling team, and I'm going to ask the coaches to come up first. Coach James Kelly and Candy Witherspoon. I'm going to have you just say a few words about the team, the season, and how it went and so forth, and I'm going to let you introduce the team, and then I'm going to have Miss Beth Frazier come up and say a few words.
Okay. First, we'd just like to thank you all for honoring us tonight. We had a great start off in the season, and I guess about midway when we went to Baton Rouge to a bowling tournament, and we did a great job, and we got first place in that tournament. That was kind of a turning point in our season, and we saw some great things coming, and we finished the season 17-0, so that was just an accomplishment in itself. And I'm just glad to be associated with a group of great young men. Let me introduce those guys.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes, sir.
Before you go on, you and I had a conversation the other day. There's one unique young man that's in that group. Could you please let him stand and tell us exactly what it is that he did, Mr. Kelly?
Okay, James, stand up. In the first set of the finals match, James rolled a 300 game, and that's a perfect game. And that was the first time that's ever been done in championship. Okay. We have Mark Minton, Joseph Burrell, Trevor Fontenot, Aaron Newman, James Ratke, Paul Beglis, and James Smithers. The other young men who aren't here tonight, Christopher Lockett, Hung Nguyen, and Coach Witherspoon wasn't able to make it tonight also. Hung Nguyen, he's not here.
This is the one where y'all take a picture up there. Okay, and I'm gonna y'all hold this trophy. This trophy states that Barb Buck, 2010 Boys Bowling State Champions. This award presented with pride and appreciation by the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury on Thursday, May 6, 2010, to the Alfred M. Barb High School bowling team and coaches.
Okay, thank you so much.
Get your picture.
Okay.
Ms. Frazier, principal for Barb High School, would you like to come up and say a few words?
Ready?
It's always exciting to see, the students who are active in extracurricular activities and certainly in any athletic program. We have both the boys and girls bowling team, and they cheer each other on, and this team has a great team camaraderie about them. They get so excited about bowling, and I don't know if any of you have ever been to a bowling match, but this probably has the best sportsmanship of any sport that we have available to high school athletes. They really cheer for each other, whether it's their teammate or someone else that's doing really well. Many of you have read in the newspaper about somebody bowling a perfect game. For most of us who was there, this was the first time we actually saw it for ourselves. And, the guys are all tense going into that final, but whenever you see somebody coming closer and closer to that perfect game, you get down to that 8th, 9th, and 10th frame, there's just a tremendous amount of pressure. And so we were very proud that not only did we bowl that perfect game, you can't imagine what that did emotionally to the other team. And not only did we get the pin advantage, but we certainly got the emotional advantage in that game as well. The rest of the guys came through and really, helped each other out and cheered each other on. It was a great team effort, and everybody got a chance to bowl, which is also great too. So we're very proud of them.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Again, congratulations to the Barb bowling team. Outstanding job, guys, and also to the coaches. Coach Kelly, congratulations again. Number 12, consideration of adopting a resolution
Move
requesting
on
that
12.
the Louisiana Gaming
Second.
Control Board allow the gaming license formerly held by Pinnacle for the Sugarcane Bay project to be retained for a similar project in Calcasieu Parish if proposed by an interested developer. I have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Hassan. Is there any discussion?
Yes, me.
We have discussion. Mr. McMillan.
Thank you, Mr. Guidry. I think it's absolutely important to the economy of Southwest Louisiana that we keep this this gaming license here in Calcasieu Parish. And as we send a resolution, we don't really have any decision-making process on this other than us sending a resolution to the gaming board to let them know how important it is to our economy to keep this. We would love to have some other gaming facility come back into the parish and work with this parish. To cluster effect in gaming is something they often do, and to have somebody come in. We didn't really want to put any restrictions on this because it may not locate where Sugar Canyon Bay was going to be on port property. We want to give them the opportunity, if there's some other land in Calcasieu Parish, they can locate it there. But here's the main thing. We want to make sure that that license stays in Calcasieu Parish. With that being said, I think it's vitally important that we get all the support locally here that we can to have that license stay here. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. Item number 12 passes. Item number 13, consideration of adopting a resolution
Move on
supporting the efforts
13.
of Miller and Associates Development Company
Second.
to obtain grant funding for the Louisiana Recovery Authority as part of the Hurricane Gustav and Ike Community Development Block Grant Portable Rental Program application. I have a motion by Mr. Stelly and a second by Mr. Collins. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. Item number 13 passes. Item number 14, consideration of adopting a resolution authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery by Waterworks District Number 11 of Ward 4 and 7 of Calcasieu Parish, Louisiana, of not exceeding $4 million principal amount of water revenue, 2010 series, and providing for another matter with respect thereto. I have a motion.
Motion.
Can I get a motion? I have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Landry. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. Item number 14 passes. Item number 15, consideration of adopting a resolution giving notice to the intention of to hold a public hearing at the regular meeting of the police jury on June 17, 2010, for the purpose of receiving public comments on a proposed to alert the boundaries of Waterworks District Number 10 of Ward 7.
Move on 15.
I have a motion by Mr. Landry.
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Brain. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. Item number 15 passes. Item number 16, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a request
Move
by
on to
Calcasieu
16.
Cameron
Second.
Hospital Services District, DBA, West Calcasieu Cameron Hospital, to sell and convey immovable property located at 2345 Sampson Street, Westlake, Louisiana. I have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Hassan. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. Item number 16 passes. Item number 17, I'm sorry, Mr. Landry.
What kind of property are they selling? What's 16? We had someone here.
We have Bill Hankins here, but it's the old Bargers building that they used to. The doctor's going to buy it from the hospital. It's where it's now a doctor's office, and Acadian Ambulance resides there, and the hospital's going to sell it to that doctor.
And the
Mr. Hankins could tell you more about
Hospital
it.
owns the property and does not need it. Okay.
Right.
I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Sorry for missing you, Mr. Landry.
That's all right.
Hearing none. Item number 16 passes. Item number 17,
Move on 17.
consideration of adopting a resolution approving an amendment to the cooperative endeavor agreement between the police jury, the city of Lake Charles, and the Chenault International Airport Authority to allow previously provided matching funds to be utilized for construction of an airframe service administration building. I have a motion by Mr. Scott and a second by Mr. Size. Is there any discussion? Any objection? I'm sorry. Mr. Scott.
Yeah, if I can get Mr. Rob to maybe come up right quick from Chenault since he's here.
Please state your name and address for the record, sir. Thank you.
I'm Randy Robb with Chenault. It's 3650 Senator J. Bennett Johnson Avenue in Lake Charles, 70615.
Yeah, Mr. Rob, I appreciate you coming up tonight. I was wondering if you could just give the jury just a couple minutes of the good things that's going on at Chenault, how
Yes,
the
sir.
KC-10 project's going, what's up with Aeroframe, and how their jobs are beginning to progress out there. If you just give us a quick update.
Yes, sir, sure can. As background, this, when we had previously asked for this and we had got assigned CEA on this project, it was in support of the Aeroframe expansion, which we expected at the time when the economy took a dive. This is a $1.5 million federal EDA grant that we have for the project. We're asking the police jury and the city of Lake Charles to put in the $500,000 that previously agreed to. And of course, because now we're separating the building from the hangar, it's going to cost us a little more money, and Chenault will pay the difference, which is we'll throw in a little over $850,000 to make this work. In order to preserve this particular grant, we've got to break ground by September of 2010, and that causes us to complete the bidding documents by July 8th, the bid opening by August 12th. We need to award a conditional contract by August 18th and sign the contract on August 27th so that we can commence construction on September the 7th. So we're asking for the same terms. But Aeroframe has already hired about 200 additional people, and I think we were up to about 180 for Northrop Grumman. We have the KC-10 project in full force. We expected the first airplane in April. The state gave us $7 million to purchase equipment for the KC-10 project so that they can compete equally with the incumbents in that program. We have right now 4 KC-10s on the ground at Chenault, along with 3 Joint Stars airplanes, and Northrop Grumman's bidding a lot more projects for them. We're busting at the seams, and Aeroframe really needs an office, and that's why we came to you to ask for this favor.
All right, Mr. Robert, I appreciate you coming. I just wanted people to realize how much of an asset Chenault has become and how it is growing, and in the future I think it's going to get larger and larger, and I do believe they're doing a good job out there. So thank you, Mr. Rob. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Mr. Rob, we may have another comment. Ms. Trimmy.
No, I know that Chenault is a diamond for Calcasieu Parish. And what is the estimate of that contract of employees that will be hired once everything is complete?
A little over 250 people for Aeroframe services, and then with what we believe they're going to be bringing, they'll be up to about 600 total folks.
And that's not minimum wage jobs?
No, ma'am. They're about average $50,000 to $52,000 a year.
Well, I don't see how you can get any better than that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trimmy. Is there any other comments by the jury? Thank you, Mr. Rob. We appreciate your comments. Item number 18, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a contract to provide service, hold harmless agreement between the police jury and Harry Lee Louvier and Etna Bell for park keepers.
So moved.
Service at
Second.
Holbrook Park. I have a motion by Ms. Trimmy and a second by Mr. Size. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 18 passes. Item number 19, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a
Move on
contract
19.
to provide services, hold harmless agreement between the police jury and Glenn Hickenbotham for park keeping services at White Oak Park. I have a motion by Mr. Stelly and a second by Mr. Spell. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 19 passes. Item number 20, consideration of authorizing the Director of Planning and Development to notify the following property owners in accordance with Article 2
Move on 20
of
now,
Chapter
Bullet.
6 of the Code of Ordinance of the Parish of Calcasieu, Louisiana, to show cause at a public hearing on June 17, 2010, for the first regular police jury meeting thereafter, as to why the structures on the properties as stipulated should not be condemned. I have a motion by Mr. Size and a second by Mr. Collins. Mr. Size, would that be on all 9 bullets?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Let me just read those into the record, please. 20.1, 7454 Blanco Lane, South Lake Charles. 20.2, Houston River Road, Westlake area. 20.3, 2514 Evergreen Road, Westlake area. 20.4, 737 Deborah Lane, Moss Bluff area. 20.5, 4015 South Baglis Parkway, Sulphur area. 20.6, 3927 Opelousas Street, East Lake Charles area. 20.7, 4017 South Baglis Parkway, Sulphur area. 20.8, 2506 May Street, Westlake area. 20.9, 3648 North Claiborne, North Sulphur area. I have a motion and a second on those items. Is there any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none. Item number 20 and all bullets pass. Item number 21, consideration of approving the recommendations of the Director of the
21,
Division
all
of Planning and
bullets.
Development in reference to the surplus adjudicated property sales conducted on May 4th, 2010. I have a motion by Ms. Griffin and a second by Mr. Spell. Ms. Griffin, would that be on all 8 items?
That is correct.
Thank you so much, Ms.
Thank you.
Griffin. I'll just read those into the record. Item number 21.1, 400 block of Gelpy Drive. 21.2, 100 block of North Line Street. 21.3, northeast corner of North Lines and Lewis Street. 21.4, southwest
excuse me.
corner of Railroad Avenue. Mrs.
On-
Trimmy?
On 21.3,
Yes, ma'am.
instead of it being re-advertised, we're accepting the highest offer of $10,100.
10,100 by Mr.
Just
Joseph
wanted
F.
to make
Sumner.
that part of the record.
We accept it. Thank you, Ms. Trimmy. Item number 21.5, 211 Gelpy Drive in Lake Charles. 21.6, 719 Sycamore Street in Lake Charles. Also, the Director of Planning and Development recommend that the amount of $9,900 for Mr. Kevin Todd be accepted. 21.7, 128 North Line Street. 21.8, 633 Simmons Street. Is there any other discussion? Any objection on any of those items? Hearing none, item number 21 and all bullets pass. Item number 22, consideration of adopting a resolution indicating objection, no objection to the following proposed project in Calcasieu Parish.
Move on 22.
I have a motion by Dr. Mackey and a second by Mr. Hassan. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, number 22 passes. Item number 23, consideration of adopting a resolution formally accepting plans and policies and designating individuals for compliance with the requirements of the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program as it relates to Hurricane Gustav and Ike. Did you have any comments on that, Mr. McMillan? I have a motion by Mr. Scott and a second by Mr. McMillan. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, number 23 passes. Item number 24, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between the police jury and the city of Lake Charles with reference to Hurricane Gustav and Ike Community Development Block Grant.
So moved.
Programs funds for projects listed in the Calcasieu Parish Recovery Proposal. I have a motion by Mr. McMillan
Second.
and a second by Mr. Fordham. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Stelly.
I have a question, not directly about this, but about some recovery. To someone who can tell me where we are on the FEMA flood maps. When are those things going to be ready to go, and when can we,
Well, I think that we have adopted the maps insofar as determining elevation. Now, with respect to the insurance, when that'll take hold in the process, I'm not sure on that. But we have adopted and we are utilizing the elevations that were proposed on the map.
but you're utilizing them for building purposes, but not for insurance
That's
purposes?
correct. Yes, sir.
So, can we get an idea, can we find out from someone when FEMA will decide when they're gonna make up their minds or whatever?
We'll look into it and we'll provide you an explanation just as soon as possible.
Thank you. I didn't mean to get off there, but
No, that's fine,
That's part of
Mr. Stelly.
recovery.
That's something we're all concerned
That's
about.
part of recovery, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stelly. Mr. Landry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to get off on there with you. I know what you're talking about. From what I understand, we're waiting on them to send back a letter. They sent us the map, we looked at it, we sent it back to them. All they got to do is send a letter. This has been going on since the middle of last year. How hard is it for them to send us a letter? I mean, come on. They came up with the map to begin with. It's their map, not ours. And we've accepted it, and it's only a letter. I've got somebody that lives in my district that in December of last year was faced with it was over $7,000 flood insurance policy. That's what they were going to have to pay. Before, they were only paying like $1,500 a year. They ended up getting around it. They had to put an awning from one building to another, which that's ridiculous. And that got them out of it. But it's all over one piece of paper. And I mean, this is affecting thousands of people. And unfortunately, I mean, it's not our fault. We've done all we can do. We've done it now. It's almost a year ago.
Yes, that's correct. You know, and there are a number of communities that they're working with. I'm not trying to defend FEMA. I think that
Please don't.
we should have had it, no question about that. And it's just a lot of things that are going on right now with hazard mitigation and buying out properties and that type of thing. And of course, you know, GOSEP at the state level has also been involved. So it's just various hoops we have to go through. But we'll follow back up and see if we can get some clarification on it.
And maybe the end of our next month, committee night, you could give us an answer.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. Ms. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. In reference to the acceptance of their own map, such as what Mr. Stelly is in reference to now. Now, they have used their maps to approve some of the grants that is given from the hurricane funds. In reference to the elevation approval for their maps, it really isn't effective and it's not correct. Because I've been an eyewitness to some streets that floods in my neighborhood. One street is considered a flood zone and the next street is not. But the street that's considered a flood zone, the water flows up in the backyard of the other residents. So in reference to FEMA, I would give them a 45% accuracy with that map. Now, this is still not the end of it because our citizens are waiting for the maps here for the insurance, but yet they're going about taking care of people's business and approving grant money. That doesn't seem to right. It doesn't seem, well, I won't say professional, but I don't know how they handle business. It's trickling down from FEMA to the state of Louisiana, and then we get it. So that it's a lot of problems with really from the first hurricane with anything they do. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Is there any other comments by the jury?
Yeah.
If none, we'll move on to item number 25.
Move on to 25.
Item number 25. Consideration approving the following requests from the Office of Juvenile Justice Service. Dr. Mackey, would that be on all
items?
4 bullets? Thank you, Dr. Mackey. I have a second. Who was the second by? Had a motion by, and a second by Mr. Scott. Let me just read those bullets into the record, please. 21.5, adopt a resolution authorizing the Director of Division, authorizing the Director of the Office of Juvenile Justice Service to negotiate on the terms and conditions of a professional service agreement between the Educational and Treatment Council. 25.2, adopt a resolution authorizing the Office of Juvenile Justice Service to submit an updated plan and any revisions thereafter to the Louisiana State University Office of Social Service Research and Development. 25.3, adopt a resolution authorizing the Office of Juvenile Justice Service to enter into a continued agreement with the Calcasieu Parish School Board to provide for an educational specialist and a clerk for the Truancy Assessment and Service Center. 25.4, adopt a resolution authorizing the Office of Juvenile Justice Service to submit a continuation application and any revisions thereafter in an amount up to $60,000 to the Louisiana Supreme Court. Is there any other discussion? Any other objections? Hearing none, number 25 and all bullets passed. Number 26, consideration of adopting a resolution authorizing the Commissioner on behalf of the Calcasieu Parish District Attorney's Office to provide the terms and conditions of a contract in an amount up to $15,000 with Lake Charles Memorial Hospital for sexual assault nurse examiner. I have a motion by Mr. Size and a second by Mr. Collins. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 26 passes. Item number 27, take appropriate actions to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of Mr. David L. Clark as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Ward 6, Fire Protection District Number 1. Mrs. Trimmy recommends that Mr. Clyde Dahl be
Second.
appointed. I have a motion by Ms. Trimmy and a second by Mr. Size. Is there discussion on you, Ms. Trimmy?
No,
Okay.
we just got a good man.
All right, thank you, Ms. Trimmy, for that
But
appointment.
what I did want to say, and on behalf of David Clark and Colleen Clark, that
Yeah.
served practically since the creation of the Ward 6 Fire Department. David served and took no per diem. Colleen served and took no pay and did all of the clerical and the minutes for this Ward 6 department. Right before David had to turn his resignation in and he and Colleen moved to Lake Charles from Route 66, the Ward 6 Fire Protection District received a classification of 4. You just heard from the Lake Charles and gentleman who is the fire chief for for 2 different wards. I mean, 2 different fire protection districts, and they were excited to have a 4. So Ward 6 now has a 4, and that's going to make a tremendous difference in the insurance coverage that they're going to have to pay for homeowners policies, because for every time that goes down, then your insurance policy is less. So I just want to thank David and Colleen personally for their awesome work for many, many years, and also for Tim Gillen and his wife Terry Gillen, that have been there for a very, very, very long time. Clyde Dahl is a class act. He works for W.R. Grace. He's also right now in a school for first responders for W.R. Grace. He's also an EMT for W.R. Grace. So he has a lot of experience. So he's going to be a great board member, but I just had to say that about David and Colleen. Thank you.
Ms. Trimmy, I know Colleen and her husband David appreciate those kind words, and again, we thank you for that appointment, Ms. Trimmy. Item number 28, take appropriate action to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of Mr. Eddie Dahlquist as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Ward 6, Fire Protection District Number 1. Mrs. Trimmy.
Okay, the person that I would like to appoint is Farrell Swallow.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Trimmy and a second by Mr. McMillan. Farrell Swallow for the
Farrell
appointment.
Swallow, and I already talked to him, and I turned all the information in to Kathy. So
Is there any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, number 28 passes for that appointment. Number 29, take appropriate action to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of Mr. Dwayne E. Chapman as a member of the Board of Commissioners
Move to
of Ward
defer.
8, Fire Protection District Number
Second.
1. Mr. Stelly asks for referral for 30 days. I have a motion and a second on that item. Item number 30, to take appropriate action to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of Mr. L.E. Nix as a member of the Board of Commissioners of
Move to
Ward 4,
appoint.
Fire
Second.
Protection District Number 2. Mr. Hassan recommends that Mr. Kip Cochran be appointed. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, the appointment is. 31, take appropriate action to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of Ms. Nell Jean Miller as a member
Move
of
to
the Board of
appoint
Commissioners.
Karen
Ward 2,
Nealon.
Fire Protection District Number 1. Mr. Stelly recommends that Ms. Karen Nealons be appointed to that position. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, number 31 passes. Item number 32, take appropriate action on the expiration of the term of Mr. Mike Dortez as a member
Move
of
to
the Board of
reappoint
Commissioners,
Mike Dortez.
the Recreation District Number 1 of Ward 8. Mr. Stelly asks that Mr. Mike Dortez be reappointed to that position. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Yes, Mr. Landry.
You didn't say it.
Sorry, Mr. McMillan.
Just want to make sure you had one.
Mr. Landry, maybe he wasn't listening.
Maybe say it. He does it often.
All right. Item number 33, take appropriate action on the expiration of the term of Mr. Raywood Joe Bear as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Waterwork District Number 5 of Ward 3 and 8.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Collins and a second by Mr. Stelly for the reappointment. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Did you get that one, Mr. McMillan?
Didn't do the other one either.
All right, Mr. McMillan. I have an appointment for that position. Moving on to item number 34. Take appropriate actions on bids received by the parish purchasing agent on April 27, 2010
So moved.
for weed control
Second.
chemicals. I have a motion by Ms. Griffin and a second by Mr. Scott. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 34 passes. Item number 35, take appropriate actions on bids received by the parish purchasing agent on April 29, 2010 for one aluminum
Second.
box culvert for the use by the Division of Engineering and Public Works. I have a motion by Mr. Scott and a second by Ms. Griffin. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 35 passes. Item number 36, consideration of authorizing the
Move on
parish
to the
purchasing agent to advertise for mosquito control solvent. I have a motion by Mr. Size and a second by Mr. Collins. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 36 passes. Item number 37, consideration of accepting the LCDBG Old River Road Water Extension Project as substantially complete. I need a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr.
Second.
Porter. I have a second by Mr. Landry. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 37 passes. Item number 38, consideration of accepting the Calcasieu
Second.
Correctional Center Security Electronics Upgrade Project as substantially complete. I have a motion by Ms. Griffin and a second by Mr. Size. Is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Hearing none, item number 38 passes. Item number 39.
Move on 39.
Consideration of accepting Calcasieu Parish Project number 2009-03, overlaying of various roads in Calcasieu Parish, Louisiana, as substantially complete. I have a motion by Mr. Brame, and I have a second by Mr. Collins. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 39 passes. Item number 40, consideration of proclaiming
So
May
moved.
22nd to the 28th, 2010 as National Safe Boating Week in Calcasieu Parish. I have a motion by Dr. Mackey
Second.
and a second by Mr. Fordham. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item number 40 passes. Item number 41 is an advised item that the Board of Commissioners of Neblett Buff Park Commission will call an election to be held on October 2nd, 2010 to renew a 6.18 mills property tax for 10 years beginning January 1st, 2011 through December 31st, 2020 to be used for the purpose of construction, development, improvements, maintenance, operation, and repair of Niblett Buff Park, its facilities and equipment, and acquisition and/or lease of site, property, works, facilities, and equipment of the district. I have a motion. Okay, we don't need a motion on that. I have a point of personal privilege by Mr. Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. President. In reference to 8.2, Mr. Vickers, we had discussed it at the committee meeting. Could the present permit holders be notified
Yes.
that door-to-door sales is now illegal in the outlying areas of Calcasieu Parish?
Absolutely.
And Brian, can something be sent? I know we have representatives from the Sheriff's Department here, but can something be sent to all the law enforcement agencies to let them know, the other marshals' offices also?
We'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan. I have also a comment by Mr. Shannon. Mr. Spell.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I could add to that, I think it would be appropriate to send a letter to the school board so they could advise, we could advise the school board that it's now illegal for the children to sell anything for fundraising activities. I think that would be a good courtesy. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Spell.
Yes.
Mr. Brain.
That's a correction on that, Mr. Spell. It's not illegal for them to do it, it's just door to door.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Hassan.
If I could, I've been in contact with, as of right now, it is not a written school board policy against door-to-door sales, but most fundraising material that has been sent out, individual schools have opted to put on there, do not go door to door. Because of the safety concerns that the marshal has brought up, they've taken it upon themselves to advise the kids not to go door to door.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan. Mr. Spill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the corrections by my colleague, but I still think it would be a courtesy to advise the school board of new ordinance that we will be enforcing that does affect their activities, whether it be direct or indirectly. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Spill. Is there any other comments? At this time, we have two other items that we will need to add to the agenda. And I would ask that you would please review the items printed below for your consideration. The chair will entertain a motion to suspend the rules to allow these items to be added to the agenda.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Fordham and a second by Mr. Size. Are there anyone in the audience from the public that would like to comment on either of these items? If none, I call for a vote on the motion to suspend the rules to allow these items to be added to the agenda. All of those in favor signify by aye. All of those opposed by nay.
Aye.
Motion to suspend the rules and add these items passes. Item number 1, consideration of adopting a resolution at the request of the Lake Charles Harbor and Terminal District to support Senate Bill number 739, Carbon Capture
So
and
moved on item 1.
Enhance All
Second.
Recovery
Second.
Act due to the potential economic development benefits for Calcasieu Parish. I have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Stelly. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Item number 2, receive report from Mr. Norman Boudreau for the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness regarding the current weather conditions which may result in the need for issuance of a burn ban outdoor activity throughout Calcasieu Parish. I have a motion by Mr. Size and a second by Ms. Griffin. Is there any discussion? Any objection? We have discussion? Mr. Landry.
Just one. This is Mr. Bordeaux. Mr. Boudreau,
I'm sorry, Mr. Bordeaux.
he lives next door to Mr. Thibodeau, and that,
Why didn't you correct me on that, Landry?
we're not going to tell that joke tonight.
Why didn't you tell me on that?
Bordeaux.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bordeaux.
That's quite all right, Mr. President.
Did I say Boudreaux? No, I did not say Boudreaux.
Yeah, you did.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bordeaux.
Not a problem, Mr. President. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Just a quick update. I mean, as you know, I'm not going to tell you really a whole lot you don't already know. Things are very dry in our area. We haven't had any significant rainfall in quite some time. This past month of April is the lowest rainfall on record ever for our area at just slightly over a tenth of an inch. In conjunction with that, also the very low humidity conditions that we're experiencing is also continuing to make the situation worse than it normally would if we were experiencing more normal humid conditions for this time of year. For your consideration underneath the burn ban that we have, the key indice that we look at is the Keach Byram Drought Index. And as in the ordinance states, that index needs to be greater than 600. Currently, we are at the under 500 level at this point. Therefore, we are not at a point where we would actually be looking to institute a burn ban for our area, but certainly something to keep a close eye on, because it's expected this index will continue to rise. The National Weather Service lists us as being in a moderate drought condition at this time, and that we're approximately 7.5 inches below our average rainfall for this time of the year. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be any good news in sight. Right now, the Weather Service is saying we've got like slim to no chance of rain for at least the next 7 to 10 days. And the long-term forecast is below normal rain amounts through at least July. So with that, that's really the end of my report, unless you have any specific questions.
Mr. Bordeaux, we have a few comments from our colleagues that, as soon as Mr. McMillan, I have a comment from Mr. Spell.
No, it's after Mr.
Is
Bordeaux.
that Mr. Bordeaux? Okay.
I have a question on the burn ban. How is that information passed along to the law enforcement and the fire departments?
We do an extensive media push. Once you decide that a burn ban is the appropriate action, we send out press releases. We would work with Jason Barnes also to help distribute that information. Now, kind of the interaction between the fire departments and the sheriff's office for the enforcement of that, that information would also be passed along to the law enforcement agencies, and then there is some discussion on how they want to work together on that to ensure that we have an effective enforcement of that policy.
I think it'd be advisable if we could take and directly send something to these all the fire districts, because I've had a situation where one of our fire departments was called on somebody burning something in their yard. They told them there wasn't nothing they could do about it, and it was during the burn ban. So I feel like some of these fire departments are not getting the message, and it's falling through the cracks. So I would make that suggestion that we send a direct notice to all of our fire departments, all the fire districts in the parish.
Yes, sir. We'll make sure that happens.
Thank you, President.
I have one other comment. Mr. McMillan.
Thank you. I appreciate what you're doing on the burn ban. I'd like to see us maybe err on the side of safety. I can tell you yesterday at Highway 108, the interstate crossing right there, they had some pampas grass that caught fire from a cigarette probably being thrown out. It's not going to rain anytime soon. I think to be on the side of safety, that we need to go ahead and enact a burn ban in Calcasieu Parish at this point in time. So don't wait to pull that trigger. I'm ready now. If you know, you see fit. All the indicators are showing it. We've already had fires. I think that we ought to act on this as quickly as possible. So please err on the side of safety on behalf of this burn ban from my behalf. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Mr. Beam.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to clarify the way the ordinance is written. President of the police jury, when it reaches that number not referred to, can enact that, and y'all would come back and ratify it. So I think we're covered there whenever it's needed, as soon as it's needed.
Thank you, Mr. Beam. Is there any other comments by the jury? Mr. Bartow, we do appreciate you coming today.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time.
All right, thank you. At this time, I would ask for a point of personal privilege by Mr. Spell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just having OEP here reminded me of something. We were told that we would receive a report on ambulance response times in 6 months. It's been over 6 months. I'd just like to ask Mr. Beam if we could receive that report in the near future. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Shannon. Ms. Trimmy, did you?
Yeah, just because I'm already down here, otherwise
I
I'll
didn't
come
even
back
see
around.
you, Ms. Trimmy.
But just as
I
a personal
apologize.
privilege, I just want to let you know, Tuesday, the DeQuincy High School baseball team is in the playoffs, and they played the #1 team in the state.
Yes, they did.
And they beat them 7-6. It was a big surprise. So now we play Friday night at 5 o'clock. So any of y'all interested in coming seeing some really good baseball, come to DeQuincy High School and let's have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trimmy.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Griffin and a second by Mr. Hassan to adjourn. The meeting has now been adjourned.